Hey everyone, welcome. This is Jason Clemmons, Doctor of Chiropractic at the Rock Health and Wellness Center, and this is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. We are live right here in the Rock Health and Wellness Center studios on this beautiful, beautiful Friday afternoon in Lubbock, Texas, October 11th. We're coming to you right here like we always do Monday through Friday from 6 to 7 p.m. to talk about health. We're live on the radio at 98.7 Walk by Faith, 1420 AM Lubbock Christian Nation. We are live on Facebook at the Rock Health and Wellness Centers. We're on YouTube. We're on X, the new X. Got to get it right. One of these days we'll get it right. Still want to call it Twitter. You know, where you could just say anything and they don't give you some sort of warning that if you say something wrong, they're going to cut you off. I appreciate them for that. Yeah, we're live on all those places right there. So I hope you guys have had a fantastic week. I think we've had some pretty good shows. I think we've had some pretty good adjustments. I think that, man, I looked this morning and it's supposed to be 97 degrees tomorrow in Lubbock, Texas. It'll be October the 12th. It'll be 97 degrees out there. I was like, man, just think you can just get out and move and maybe I could keep myself from having that stabbing pain right between my shoulder blades by getting out there and moving around a little bit. So, yeah, uh, it's been a good week. It's been an interesting week. I've had some interesting conversations, and the one that just keeps running through my brain is the question after the neurological conversation I had yesterday with one of our guys. The question is what makes your brain quit working? What causes that? If you because I was just telling him all the stuff yesterday. You know, he's the he and his wife and his 90-year-old something cousin are big contributors to our office here in the and helped us a lot to do some things, and then they went off and traveled around the world and did all kinds of stuff around the world, and I mean they went to I don't know they went cruising and they went to Egypt and they went to Greece and I don't know all these places they went all over the world doing stuff and so they missed out for a little while. And but when we got back, we got all kinds of stuff now. Well, I mean, we don't stop around here at the Rock. We just keep adding stuff to it, and so we just kept adding and kept adding, and so he was kind of behind. So I had a little break in my day yesterday, and I had an opportunity to talk to him, and then um, it was. It was cool. So I was showing him the right eye. I was showing him the Reflex app. I was showing him the neurofeedback that we do with the brain mapping. I was talking to him about how the brain works, and you know how all you guys that are listeners to this show understand all that. The up and to the right, over to the left. You know, anxiety, the unknown on the right, the known on the left, and all that stuff. And by the way, I just really hope that you guys that listen to this show on a regular basis just realize how advanced you are. I'm telling you, you know stuff. You know stuff, and I know all of you do your own things too. And I mean, like y'all study and do your things and listen to other people and all that. And y'all are pretty dynamic people. I know that, uh, but you're just getting some information that just separates you from a lot of folks on the planet, and you really are. You're learning some things. I'm telling you, you're learning some things. It's 24 years now of wellness information that we've been sharing with you on this show, and I know that you guys like. I bet you at church or at work or at school or wherever you are, with your friends, and you're just trying to say, do you understand that your right hemisphere deals with the unknown world and causes anxiety when it's overstimulated, and you got to get on your feet and walk, and I know you guys out there are doing that. I know you're trying to do that. So I was catching him up on all this stuff, and I said, we gotta map it back to your brain, right? Like map it all back to your brain. We love to do that on this show. We love to get our whiteboard out. I used to coach for a long time, for 6 years, and then my dad coached me my whole life. And so, you know how many napkins we had back back in the day? How many of these little whiteboard sessions that we used to do over and over and over again? It used to be back in the old days, wishbone. I mean, you'd get this type of deal going on, and um, you'd have a wishbone formation right there, and then you'd be riding and reading. You'd have it coming off of here, and we'd low block that end, and we'd come around the outside, and you'd read that defensive end, read that tackle or whatever. I don't even remember what we were doing. Uh, there's a nose and there's a tackle somewhere in an end or whatever that was back in the day, and we would read that and then pull it, come down the line, low block him, come around the end, pitch off the force guy. Yeah. You know how many napkins I had? I'm telling you, if I had, the box would be so big if I had all those napkins back, all those places, be hanging out I remember hanging out in a bar in San Angelo. That sounds like Ron White all of a sudden, right? No, hanging out at a football coaches clinic. It was wall to wall football is what they called it back then. It was the best coaches clinic in the world in San Angelo, Texas. It was great, man. And then everybody would cut loose and go out there and I'd see those old time coaches, Wade Wilson and all those guys. They'd be out on the dance floor, and Wade Phillips, not Wade Wilson, Wade Phillips, Bum Phillips' son, and he coached in the NFL for a long time, and a bunch of those guys, they'd just be out there on the dance floor, they just cutting loose, and I just would watch those guys thinking, man, those guys are crazy. I didn't realize they were actually helping their health by getting out there with their friends and dancing. So. But we would sit over there at the table, and we would have those little napkins, and we'd just be going after it. We'd talk about football. I go fishing with my good friend Ferg, and we were coaching at New Mexico State, and we'd go up there north to Caballo Lake, and we'd go do some fishing. And sometimes we just sit there and fish and never say a word to each other for hours. And then sometimes we would just talk about wide receiver play and offense. And we were number 4 in the country in passing. We had a 3,000-yard passer, a 1,000-yard wide receiver, and a 1,000-yard running back. Lucius Davis and Denvis Mans. Cody Ledbetter. Cody had some mental trouble. I wish I could have helped him out. He ended up in taking his own life. That was very disappointing. But Lucius was smooth as silk and was a good wide receiver, and Denvis Mans was one of the best running backs ever, statistically. So we were pretty good out there. We talked about it all the time. So, having said that, on this beautiful Friday afternoon in Lubbock, Texas, there is a reason that I have a whiteboard right here in front of me, and because it's the same thing. It's, to me, what we're doing is we're breaking down plays, right? I mean, what's the difference? We've said it, right? We've said it so many times. I could write 4L B fly 70 curl. This is 4L B fly. This is L. That's a fullback. We put him in L. Tight end's on the right side. 70 curl. We're going to run a whole post on the backside. We're going to run a dig right there. We're going to run a curl route, and he's going to be in the flat. He's going to check and flare going backside. That's 4L B fly 70 curl. And my read as a quarterback, as I was dropping back, I was reading that safety. If that safety went to the middle, I was going to hit the whole post. If that safety stayed coming straight back, then I'm going to come over here to strong safety to Sam linebacker. And then I was going to read this little triangle right there and try to throw it to the open guy. Don't throw it to the other team. And that's quarterbacking right there, right? That's how easy playing quarterback is. It's not complicated. And so that right there, the last time I ran that play was in 1993, which is, what is that, 21 years ago? 31 years. 31 years ago, right? 93. 03, 13, 20, yeah, 31 years ago. That's the last time I ran that play. I learned that play with so much intensity that it burned into my brain, and I know exactly how to run that play to this day. Well, here's a play for you, and you guys know this play. Here's the brain, here's the cerebellum, here's the spinal cord, there's the sacrum, there's the right side, there's the left side, here's the right side of the brain. Let's run this play. Up and to the right, over to the left. That's a touchdown right there. Like, to me, that's the same. That's the same way that I approach that deal. It's like that's the way it works. It's not. It's not the technical neurological pathway. It's not. It's not the technical individual neurological pathway. It's the sum of the neurological pathways. It's the big picture of the neurological pathways is up and to the right and over to the left. This is right side over here, left side over here. And to me, it's just like both of those things fit together. It's the same deal. I'm gonna understand that football play, and I'm gonna understand where we're gonna go with the ball, and I'm gonna look at it, I'm gonna read the safety, and I'm gonna get my eyes back where they're supposed to be. And I know where all these guys go. The quarterback knows where all of the offensive linemen are going to go, where the tight end goes. I know the responsibility of all 11 guys, myself plus the other 10. And that's part of my job. And now I just try to figure I try to figure out this other one over here, the responsibility of this right side and left side brain thing. And how that works. And how do you figure that out, man? How do you get all those things to fire like they're supposed to? And so you guys know that. Shoot, man, we've gone over it 108 times already, probably. And you're probably getting to where you're pretty good at it. You're probably getting pretty good where you can explain it. But it's going to map. Tonight's going to map. It's going to map out because when that's disrupted, when I don't read my keys, like if let's just say, for example, this safety right here just backs straight up. And what does that mean to me? That means that's cover two over there. We got a corner playing up underneath that, and we got a safety playing right over the top of that, and he stays on the hash mark. And I can't put that whole post into that safety. At least you you didn't do that back in the 90s. Sometimes they do it today, and I'm like, well, Cal, go ahead. And then the wide receiver gets his head taken off, and then they throw a penalty on the safety for hitting the wide receiver too hard. I'm like, wow, I wish we would have done that back in the day. Back in the old days, you just threw that whole post into that safety, and the safety took the wide receiver's head off, and then the wide receiver came back to the huddle, cussed you out for throwing that ball against that safety. That's the way the old football used to work. But if I was to throw that into that coverage, there's a really good chance that safety would break on that ball right there and I would throw an INT or an interception. And you are not a popular human being anywhere on the planet when you throw an interception. You're not a popular human being on your team. Your coaches are very, very frustrated with you. And you know why, right? You know why, because we all understand that when your reality and your expectations aren't matching, it's very frustrating. So my coaches were not really expecting they weren't really expecting me to throw that ball into that safety right there. Don't throw it to the other team. It makes people very frustrated, and it makes fans extremely frustrated, and they will say nasty things about you. And then sports writers will write nasty things about you. And then it's hard. Your girlfriend even looks kind of funny at you, like, man, what is going on out there, right? Okay, well, let's say we disrupt this pattern. Let's say we disrupt this neurological pattern over here on this right side. And I know you guys on the radio can't see any of this. So you got to go back to Walk by Faith Radio and Facebook page later on, and you got to watch this first half of the show so that you can see it. And let's just say that we that somehow we disrupt the pattern of this up and to the right, over to the left, right? So we have some sort of issue in our neck, like maybe our neck is forward, or maybe we've got some sort of degeneration in our neck, or we've got some sort of issue. So we could actually have some disruption in our neck, or maybe our low back's not functioning right. We got a disc that's not right, or a vertebra that's slid forward, or the hips are not balanced, or whatever, right? We could have some sort of issue or whatever somewhere along the way, or we could have a chemical problem. Like we could have way too much inflammation. We could have, so we could be like taking too many medications. We could be doing something, um, you know, there's a lot of chemicals we don't even think about. One of my conversations this week was Splenda and the organochlorine that Splenda is, and how it's toxic to the body, and aspartame is toxic to the brain, and saccharin causes cancer, and all that sort of thing, right? So those are chemicals. Those are chemicals that we get deodorant, toothpaste, hairspray, um, products that we use. All those things are chemicals, and they can cause disruptive patterns somewhere along the way. Or we could be in a very stressful environment. We could be stressed out all the time. We could be having lots of things go on in our environment that causes us to stay over here too long. Just be over here in this right brain and just keep ramping this thing up. Well, pretty soon what's going to happen is we're just going to lose this upper brain, lower brain inhibition, right? We're going to keep firing that upper brain on that right side until the point of exhaustion. And then once we reach exhaustion, then the senior class, it's that upper part of the brain, they just all of a sudden they just stop. They stop functioning. They stop doing their job. They stop telling that freshman class that's down there below to calm down. And so what do we get? We get the lack of inhibition. And what do we say? What do we know? What do we know about healthy people? Right? We know this. Healthy people, you can finish the sentence, inhibit. Healthy people inhibit. Healthy people's upper brain inhibits their lower brain. And so, and what are all these little things that we're putting up here, right? They're interceptions. They're interference. They're just like throwing an interception on the other side. And so this healthy people over here, they inhibit. Jason, what do you mean by that? When you say they inhibit, what do you mean by that? Right? Well, let me just show you. Let me just talk about an article. Here's an article. Here's an article right here. This comes from the New England Journal of Medicine in 1991. Yeah, August 29th. That's probably about the time we were getting ready to play Pacific or something, or OU. I don't remember who we were playing in 91, early in the year, first game of the year. But could have been Wyoming. We went up there too. I think it was 91 as well. But yeah, so this is 1991. So there was actually people working on health in 1991 while I was trying to throw footballs. Well, I was learning all these football plays, right? Psychological stress and susceptibility to the common cold. The Department of Psychology, Carnegie Mellon University, Pittsburgh. These authors prospectively studied the relationship between psychological stress and the frequency of documented clinical colds among subjects intentionally exposed to respiratory viruses. Now, they intentionally exposed them. After completing questionnaires assessing degree of psychological stress, 394 healthy subjects were given nasal drops containing one of 5 respiratory viruses. How would you like to go be a part of that study? They're going to give you a nasal drop that contains a respiratory virus. That sounds fabulous, right? The subjects were then quarantined and monitored for the development of evidence of infection and symptoms. The rates of both respiratory infection and clinical colds increased in a dose response manner with increases in the degree of physiological stress. Infection rates ranged from approximately 74% to approximately 90%, according to levels of psychological stress, and the incidence of clinical colds ranged from approximately 27% to 47%. Their conclusion: physiological stress was associated in a dose response manner with an increased risk of acute infectious respiratory illness. Also noted in the article and its follow up, psychological stress is thought to influence immune function through autonomic nerves innervating lymphoid tissue or hormone mediated alteration of immune cells. In biomedical terms, quote, stress refers to any adverse physical, mental, or emotional stimulus that upsets the organism's homeostasis, your balance, right? At the physiological level, stress has been the subject of study going back to Walter B. Cannon's description of the fight or flight response involving actions of the sympathetic nervous system and the adrenal medulla. Okay, this is New England Journal of Medicine, right? What's it saying? And this is it's a very key point that if you pay attention to things, this is a very key point right here. The conclusion: physiological stress was associated in a dose-response manner with an increased risk of acute infectious respiratory illness. Okay, but read that reversed. Read that reversed. If psychological stress, I don't know if I said that right a while ago, is associated with the dose response manner. If psychological stress is associated with an increased risk of infectious respiratory illness, then the decrease of psychological stress, and I know there might be some flaws in the true research, people might find some flaws with this thought, but I'm also going to say that it'll hold up. The decreased psychological stress, not physiological, psychological stress, is also associated with a decreased risk of infectious respiratory illness. So if you're handling your stress and your stress levels are lower, guess what? You inhibit the viruses. You inhibit the virus. Some of these people, and it didn't tell us how many didn't get the virus. How many of them didn't show any symptoms at all? It didn't tell us that. It tells us that it's approximately 74 to 90. So the more stressed out you are, the more chances that you got percentage-wise to get the virus, right? But listen to what it says at the bottom. At the physiological level, stress has been the subject of study going back to Walter B. Cannon's description of the fight or flight response. Where is the fight or flight response originating? We know that, right? We know that the fight or flight response originates from the right hemisphere. You get that firing pattern, that especially in that right side amygdala. So now we're going to get this right side amygdala fired up. And what are we going to get? We're going to get an increase in sympathetic firing, the fight or flight response. The lower brain on the right side has lost its inhibition from the upper brain. The upper brain on the right side is no longer telling the lower brain to calm down. Why is it no longer telling the lower brain to calm down? Because the right side upper brain is not functioning properly. Why is it not functioning properly? Because it's not balanced in its omega-6-3 ratio, because it doesn't have enough vitamin D, because we didn't get any exercise today, because we didn't get any sleep last night, because we're eating processed foods and we're stressed out and blah, 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 right? And now we lose the ability to inhibit. So what do? We fire the sympathetic nervous system and the adrenal medulla because that's the next thing that's going to happen. We're going to fire the adrenal gland. Now we've got the cortisol. Now we're in this fight or flight response loop. Now here we go. Now we got all this stuff that's going on that side. Healthy people inhibit. Healthy people keep themselves from getting a cold. Healthy people keep themselves. It's not random chance that you got a cold. So you might think to yourself, if you have a cold, why? You know how many people came in this week with allergies? A bunch of them. Oh, these allergies are killing me. I don't know. It must be the pollen. The pollen count must be high. I don't know. Maybe there's something in the air. My allergies are killing me. You know how many times I heard that this week? I heard it multiple times this week. My allergies are killing me. The pollen is the reason. How can the pollen be the reason if I don't have allergies? How can someone have a bunch of allergies, but I don't have allergies, and we both live under the same pollen? Maybe it's not the pollen. Maybe healthy people inhibit allergies. I'll read you an article here when we get back. So we'll take a break, and then we'll come back, and then we'll keep mapping out these interceptions. And because, hey, it's Friday night in Texas. We might as well talk about football, right? You'll see this show tomorrow or Sunday or something like that. We'll be right back. Stick with us. It's one of the most profound things that I've ever learned. And Mark Matero taught it to me from New Jersey. Healthy people inhibit. Here's an article. I was going to get to it here in a second. This is Rethinking the War on Cancer, right? And I might just wait. I'll wait just a second because the radio people really should hear this one too. But Rethinking the War on Cancer, talking about inhibiting and like what things might cause allergies. What could cause allergies? Here's an article from the Journal of Developing Drugs. Journal of Developing Drugs. I don't know what that is, but October 10th, 2015. Evidence that food proteins in vaccines cause the development of food allergies and its implication for vaccine policy. More than 15 million Americans are estimated to suffer from life-threatening food allergies. Many studies looking into the cause of food allergies do not seem to consider the vaccine injection cause. Nobel laureate Charles Richet demonstrated over 100 years ago that injecting a protein into animals or humans cause immune system sensitization to that protein. Do you know when you go get your flu shot and you go get your COVID shot and you go get all those shots that you go get, do you know what's in that shot? Do you know the physiological response that your body has to that shot? Do you know the what we trade? That's the reason that we didn't vaccinate Caitlin and we stopped vaccinating Jacob is because the question was, what am I doing? What am I trading for? Am I trading a lifetime of allergies for the chance that she might get the measles? And who's getting paid for all that? It'll get pretty nasty when you start doing that. I'll probably get a warning or something because I said something about it. But that's the way that works. You don't know what you're getting, and because you lose the ability to inhibit, now your body is just running. Your immune system is just running crazy. So let me get us back on air. Okay, everybody, we're back. This is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. We're just talking about health tonight. We're talking about how throwing interceptions is related to being subluxated. You have an interference in your nervous system, yeah, and then causing your body to malfunction, right? Healthy people inhibit. Listen to this one. This is Rethinking the War on Cancer. Um, Dr. David Agus, a noted USC oncologist and one of Steve Jobs' doctors, has written a book that turns much of what we knew or thought we knew about medicine upside down. At a meeting of the nation's top oncologists in Denver a couple years back, and this was written in 2012. Dr. David Agus, a prominent cancer researcher, was given a keynote address. He talks about the need to take a new approach to treating cancer. He argued that focusing on killing or slowing the spread of cancerous cells was not enough. After all, despite a half-century research by some of the best medical minds in the world, the death rate from cancer hasn't changed much since the 1950s. Instead, doctors should try to keep a patient's entire system healthy so the disease is less likely to take root in the first place. Right? That's what he says right here. I want doctors to treat toward health and not treat toward disease. That's what Dan Buettner said in the Blue Zones show the other night. Costa Rica treats towards health. And we got this big wave coming right now. We got this big wave coming with RFK Jr. and Callie Means and Casey Means and all those guys that have a voice all of a sudden that talk about health. And they're all coming. They're all coming and talking about health, and they're trying to make a difference. I don't know how they're going to get elected, to tell you the honest truth. I don't because it seems to me like if someone was working for a pharmaceutical company, or if someone was working for a food company, they might be a little bit hesitant about that. They might be like, man, I don't know if I want to elect those guys, President Trump. Maybe I don't want to elect President Trump because he's going to have RFK getting all up in our business about health. It's like that's a little bit it's a little bit interesting how that's going to work out, but I hope so. But this is 2012, right? And this is stuff that is old news to wellness doctors. We have forgotten that curing cancer, says Agus, who is on the team of doctors who treated Jobs in the last years of his life, starts with preventing cancer in the first place. Inhibiting. Take that word right there, and instead of saying I prevented cancer, say I inhibited cancer. I inhibited it. I kept myself from getting cancer, because whether you know it or not, every single day your body makes cancer cells. And every single day your immune system recognizes the cancer cells, and it gets rid of the cancer cells. Your body has a way of controlling that. And there's a lot of evidence that says that our immune system function is related to the health of our body, obviously, right? So healthy people inhibit cancer. Healthy people inhibit the cold. Healthy people inhibit allergies. It's not just about some sort of philosophy. It's real life stuff. Because when this goes haywire over here, what are you going to do? What are you going to do when this whole, you've thrown so many interceptions in your health, you got so many disruptive patterns in your health that now you're going to start to feel symptoms. How do you tie this in? Let's bring it back down so we can tie it all together, right? Upper brain exhaustion, especially on the right side, but you can get it on both sides. Upper brain exhaustion leads to the lack of inhibition. We lose top-down control. Top-down control puts the emotional part of the brain in charge. We don't really let a lot of second graders. We don't let a lot of second graders and third graders be in charge of things. Right? It's not a common deal. It's like you don't go into the grocery store and say, "I want to talk to the manager," or go into a restaurant. You ever gone into a restaurant and say, "I want to talk to the manager," and a second grader walks out there? You'd be like, "What is going on here?" No wonder this place is crazy, right? And I'm not dogging second graders. I love second graders. Like we all were second graders at one point, and that's great. But they're running off an emotional brain. You get them tired, they'll get fussy. You get them hungry, they'll get fussy. You tell them they can't have an ice cream unless they eat their lunch, they'll get fussy. You tell them to eat their vegetables instead of just eating the refined carbohydrates, they'll get fussy. You tell them to drink water instead of trying to get them to drink a Coke. I have parents tell me that I can't keep them from drinking milk. I can't keep them from drinking Cokes. I'm like, they're in second grade. You could take them down. I promise you, you can take them down, right? But when they get fussy, they get emotional because that's what happens in the lower brain. That lower brain is the emotional part of the brain. That upper brain is the rational part of the brain. And the rational part of the brain inhibits the lower part of the brain. But when the rational part of the brain gets exhausted, it loses its ability to inhibit. When it loses its ability to inhibit, the lower brain takes over and it escapes. Now we got the second graders running the show. And now what is it going to recruit? It's going to recruit the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is getting down here into all your digestive problems. You guys know it: digestive, immune system, reproduction, posture. You're going to lose postural tone. You're going to lose muscle tone around your spine. And what's going to happen when you lose muscle tone around your spine and you've got these little muscles that are running up and down this spine, down here in your low back, and your upper brain gives up, and then all of a sudden you lean over to tie your shoes and, oh man, you fall in the floor of your closet. You fall off your bed and into the floor and you're in pain now. Now we're in pain. Uh-oh. What are we going to do now? What's the first thing you're going to do? You guys, what is the first thing that you're going to do whenever you've got excruciating back pain that you can't hardly get off the floor with? What is a typical American's process of that? They're going to start to take something, right? Are you going to think about, what do you need? Are you going to ice it? Are you going to do an NSAID? You going to get something stronger? Is that what you're thinking? When you get a headache, do you think of taking the Tylenol? When you get a headache, do you think of taking an aspirin? When your elbow hurts, do you think of taking something? Yeah, by design, you think of that. So now where are we? Now we've got this disc problem in our low back that had nothing to do with the disc itself. The disc didn't do something wrong. The disc got mistreated. Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever thought about, why do I have a disc bulge? Well, I just have a bulging disc in my low back. How did that disc bulge? What did that disc do wrong? Do you have a delinquent disc? Do you have a little delinquent disc in your low back? Like you just got some sort of like little punk disc down there that just says, man, I quit. I ain't working anymore. The heck with y'all. I just quit. No, you don't have a delinquent disc. You just have a disc. It is neutral. It's not doing anything wrong. It's just trying to live its life, being a disc. Whatever a disc does every single day. Just holding those vertebrae up and is separated. It's just minding its own business down there. And all of a sudden, you just smashed that dude. Why did you do that? Well, I just leaned over to tie my shoes. That's all I did. I just leaned over to pick up my purse. That's all I did. I just leaned over I just leaned to put some dishes in the dishwasher, and then boom, all of a sudden you got a bulging disc, and that disc is hitting the nerve, and now you've got pain. But you didn't. No one stops. No one stops right there, outside of us OGs, right? You guys who are OGs to this show, you guys know. You're like, dude, of course not. Like, of course that's not the problem. The problem wasn't the disc. The problem was what was going on. I didn't inhibit low back pain. I wasn't healthy enough to inhibit low back pain. And so what did I do? I decided that I got to take something for that. I wonder what I might take. I wonder if I was thinking about taking something, like, what would I go take? Let me see. Let me. Would I take ibuprofen? Would that be something that I might take? Would you take an ibuprofen if you were having this problem? Here's an article right here from the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, January 8th, 2018. The title of it is Ibuprofen Alters Human Testicular Physiology and Produce a State of Compensated Hypogonadism. All you guys out there, all you guys, learn this right here, okay? The study's subjects were given 600 milligrams of ibuprofen daily for a maximum of 44 days. That's a month and a half. How many times have you taken Tylenol or ibuprofen? Not Tylenol. Ibuprofen. How many times have you taken an ibuprofen for more than a month and a half? Here's an article from the National Academy of Sciences that says it's messing with your testicles. How about that? How about you women who have husbands? How about you women that have boys? Oh, what? What? You're telling me that there is some sort of interference? What? Is that what you're saying, Jason? Yep, that's what I'm saying. Did anybody ever tell you that before? No. No one's ever told us that before. Here it is right here. I didn't make it up. I'll even make it big so you can see it. Right? Ibuprofen alters human testicular physiology. It messes with it. Several studies have shown that mild analgesic exposure during fetal life is associated with anti-androgenic effects and congenital malformations. Exposure to analgesics can generate negative endocrine and reproductive effects during fetal life. How about all you moms out there that just decided to take an ibuprofen? Because that's what you just, without any thought, that's what you did, right? You didn't have any idea. You didn't know that the little boy that you were carrying could have effects from the ibuprofen, right? In this study, ibuprofen consumption suppressed testosterone production. Ibuprofen suppressed testosterone production. Why? Why, in a big picture standpoint, would that happen? Going back to our model, why would that happen? Ibuprofen suppresses testicular. Could it possibly be? Is it conceivable? Is it conceivable, based on our model, that ibuprofen might actually be what are the things that cause subluxation? These interceptions in our nervous system. What are the things that cause them? You know what they are? Number one is physical. Number two is chemical. And number three is mental emotional stress. Physical, chemical, and mental emotional stress causes interference in the nervous system. Could it possibly be conceivable, based on that sentence and based on what we know about right brain, left brain, top-down control inhibiting the freshman emotional brain, which causes the vagus nerve to get involved and then we get the immune system and the reproductive system involved in this whole thing? Could it possibly be that ibuprofen is a chemical stress to the body? Could it possibly be that your innate intelligence is like, holy crap, that is a problem? Yeah, you're gonna map it down. You're gonna if you're if you don't have anything else to do this weekend, you're gonna say, I'm gonna prove Jason wrong, and I'm gonna tell them exactly why ibuprofen inhibits or decreases testosterone production, and and I'm gonna map the physiology out. But just back up and take a big picture standpoint. Take a big picture standpoint and say, look what happens to reproduction whenever we are stressed. When you have an increased sympathetic response, we have a decreased testosterone. In this particular case, I'm just going to make that argument. But nobody knows that. Nobody talks about that, right? Except for us. Nobody's, you guys do. You guys do on a Friday night. Bless your hearts. Good for y'all. You guys do on a Saturday when you come and watch the show. All you guys do. You go and you say, oh man, I knew that already, man. That's why I don't do that stuff. I don't think about that. I'm not going to go do that. That's crazy. The levels of luteinizing hormone in the ibuprofen group had increased by 23% after 14 days of administration, and this increase was even more pronounced to 33% at 44 days. Yes, luteinizing hormone production by the pituitary gland is the primary stimulator of testosterone production. So that might be your first choice, right? But then you might say to yourself, hey, you know what? Like, maybe I need something heavier than that. Like, I gotta have a real thing. But doc, I can't just take these over. I gotta have something real, right? I gotta get out there and take something that's heavy. Got the wrong one. Yeah, you're gonna get into opioids is what you're gonna get into next. You're gonna get into opioids. There it is. The effects of opioids versus non-opioid medication on pain-related function in patients with chronic back pain or hip or knee osteoarthritis pain. So now what these guys, the Journal of the American Medical Association is going to do is they're going to take a look at opioids versus non-opioids. The object of the study was to compare opioid versus non-opioid drugs over 12 months in pain-related functions, pain intensity, and adverse effects, right? And they're going to go through here and they're going to say to us, they're going to look at a variety of outcome measures to evaluate pain-related function, pain-related physical function, pain intensity, quality of life measurement. They got a bunch. Anxiety disorder measurement, sleep disorder measurement, all of this stuff, right? Rising rates of opioid overdose deaths have raised question about prescribing opioids for chronic pain management. Because this was in Journal of American Medical Association, March 6, 2018. Okay? Because of the risk of serious harm without sufficient evidence for benefits, current guidelines discourage opioid prescribing for chronic pain. You know how many people have died from opioids? You know how many people how many millions of dollars that people make? I just looked it up just for fun, just because I just wanted to show you. I just wanted to show you just for fun what those CEO over there at Pfizer makes. You guys ever wonder that? You ever wonder what the Pfizer executive package is? The FDA will grant Pfizer emergency use authorization for its COVID-19 vaccine. There you go. The pharmaceutical firm, which is known for its drugs such as Advil, Robitussin, Viagra, Xanax, paid its executives an average of $12.8 million in 2019, and Albert Bourla had his total compensation listed at almost $18 million. This comes from Business Insider. For each executive, about 50% or more of total reported compensation was paid in equity. And then it comes down here and it tells us about how they did it. $2 million in salary, $4 million in stock awards, $6 million in option awards, in EIP, $4 million, and $2 million in other compensation. How much do you guys make? much money do y'all make? You know how many adjustments I'd have to do to make $18 million? A lot. A lot. It would take a long time, right? You know how many bottles of fish oil you have to sell to make that much money? You'd have to sell a bunch of them, right? So what's going to happen is they know this research too. They know that if they give people opioids, that there's a risk for serious harm without sufficient evidence. Pain intensity was significantly better in the non-opioid group over 12 months. Adverse medications related symptoms were significantly more common in the opioid group. Treatment with opioids was not superior to treatment with non-opioid medication for improving pain-related function over 12 months. Results do not support initiation of opioid therapy for moderate to severe chronic back pain or hip pain or osteoarthritis pain. The study does not support initiation of opioid therapy for moderate to severe chronic back pain or hip pain or knee pain. You know what happens when you take opioids? You get addicted to them. And you know what happens when your prescription runs out? You start looking for them. That's what happens with opioid addiction. You start looking for them. And what if you can't find any and you're addicted to them? What might you do? You might have another surgery. You might have another surgery to, hang on, I don't know what's going on with my screen here. You might have another surgery so that you can get more opioids. I don't know. I lost it. I lost my screen there. Hang on. It doesn't matter. I'm just gonna keep going. And then you might have another surgery. You might end up with like 7 or 8 surgeries. And then you might be so addicted to them that when you can't get them from your doctor anymore, you might start calling your friends to get them. And when you can't get them from your friends, you might call that dude on the street to get them. And you know what they put in opioids these days on the street? They put fentanyl. And then what happens? You know the difference between this right side and the left side of this little diagram that we're playing? You know the difference between these two things? The difference is the football play over here is a game. If I throw an interception in a football game, it's a bad thing to a few people, and it means absolutely nothing in the big scheme of things. It's a game. You know what the difference is over here? This is life and death. It's life and death on this other side. This whole subluxation thing is life and death. This right hemisphere functioning properly leads us into making mistakes in pharmaceuticals. It leads us into making mistakes that ends up costing us sometimes our life. Sometimes we leave behind a wife and children because somewhere along the way we just didn't understand that we really should keep our brain functioning as healthy as possible. Nobody taught us that we should keep our inflammation under control. Nobody taught us that low back disc bulging usually, almost always, is secondary to brain. It's quite impactful when you think of it that way. It's quite impactful when you think about, oh man, like you're telling me that healthy people inhibit. I get it. I see what you're saying. I may not want to just reach for that pharmaceutical the next time I have some sort of issue, like a pain between my shoulder blades. I might want to work it out. And it took about 3 or 4 days to work it out. And I worked it out. I didn't just go, I didn't go crazy. You know what I grabbed? Turmeric. And I don't even know if you say that. Turmeric. I think that's why you say it. Turmeric. GAIA herbs. Turmeric Supreme Extra Strength. Took 2 of them and mixed it Here's my dose. Here's my opioid dose right here. Here's my cocktail of of opioids and Tylenol and ibuprofen and all that crap, right? Fish oil and turmeric, knocking down that inflammation. That's what yours is too, because I know you guys. I know you guys are, by now you've already figured this out and you're like, dude, man, let me tell y'all how I handle my inflammation. And let me tell you what happens. Let me tell you what happens when I lean over and tie my shoe and something goes wrong. You know what I do? I call Dr. Clemmons and I say, Doc, I'm in the floor. I need your help. And what happens now? We get you in the office and we get you unsubluxated. That's what the chiropractor does. It gets you unsubluxated so that you can move on with your life and shine your light bright into the world. And so you don't end up in taking some opioid deal and then all the tragedies that goes along with all of that nonsense. Because you guys are awesome and you guys know better. And if you get all that drawing right there, God bless you. So, hey, I hope you guys have a great weekend. We will be back on Monday night with Taking Health to Church. If you got any questions, comments, send them to us. I really appreciate you. I hope you have a great weekend. Let us know if we can help you. And